Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and this is total solar eclipse. The previous one we had on 25th of March was partial lunar eclipse, but this one is total solar eclipse, so this one is a bit stronger and more important than the previous one. But it's tightly connected to that one. It's really strongly connected, and eclipses always come in pairs of opposites. And eclipses, as I spoke about previous time, so I highly recommend to all of you who haven't watched the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra that was recorded 2 weeks ago, that you go and watch that one and this one together, because they are connected, because this is a theme of you and me, of me versus others, my needs versus your needs, my needs with myself versus my needs in relationships, and the whole dynamic in relationships, and the whole dynamic between me and you, me and others, us and them, who am I and who are you. And these are big changes, big transformations, very challenging times, very intense. And these eclipses wake up subconscious fears, because the ruler of this eclipse in Aries is Mars, and Mars is in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign, and it represents the 12th house, the last house of the zodiac, the subconscious fears, anxieties, escapism, addictions, otherworldly things, things that are hard to explain, things that are unreachable, things that are unexplainable, everything that is mystical and mysterious, our spiritual growth, our spiritual insights, altered states, lucid dreams, astral projections, all these things that are hard to put into material realm. And the ruler of this eclipse is in Pisces, and Mars is about the embodiment. So it can be very tricky energy, very hard to digest, because we have to deal with the physical, the visible, the real, and the invisible, the unreal, so the rational and the irrational. And that impulse of creation, the impulse of life, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, and we have the ruler of Aries in the last sign of the zodiac. So we have the whole zodiac wheel encompassed, and it's being awakened within us. Our wholeness, our whole being is calling us, and it's tough because we have to face some of those subconscious fears. We have to process those long forgotten traumas, long forgotten patterns, long forgotten ancestral stories, long forgotten memories and dreams and fears and desires. And all these things are packed in these energies. And eclipses are not one day event or a couple of days event. Eclipses are felt 4 to 6 weeks before and after their exact date, and their impact is strong for 6 months and sometimes even for a whole year, and they trigger new chapter, new cycle of 19 years. So the last time we had this same North Node solar eclipse in Aries was back in April of 2004, and then April of 2005, and then March of 2006. So these years were very powerful, and they are also connected to this period of time now, and also period between 2014 and 2016. But period between 2004 and 2006 is even more relatable to these triggers and challenges that are happening now. So some same lessons that we didn't, maybe that we skipped, or that we didn't learn, or that we missed the point, or that we missed the chance to do something, they are coming back now. So we have a chance now again to work with those energies. And eclipses are, as I said before, they are game changers. They bring huge transformation. They are huge karmic releases. And this one is new moon solar eclipse, so it brings new life, and it's in Aries, so it's something new. It's a new chapter of life, new 19-year cycle, new pioneering things in our life, new daring things, new bold things, new courage, new sense of self, new sense of identity, new individuality, new way of dealing with ourselves, new perspective of who we are, a new vision of who I am, and new way of dealing with myself and my wounds, my traumas, my everything that I identify with as my own. This is Aries. This is what I identify with. This is the confirmation of the self. That's why it's I am, the affirmation, and the confirmation of this is me, this is my identity. And Aries is the will for life. It's the will to create, to act, to put action and energy into something, to create something, so that there's this willpower to do something, to move forward. But we have Mercury retrograde also in Aries, and we have to slow down. So we may be frustrated with something because we want something right now. We want it impatiently. We want it to happen and to see the change now, but we have to do it slowly. And if we take it slowly, we will experience many benefits. So doing things in a slow motion can be very beneficial, but doing it, we have to act on something. We have to make things work now. So Mercury retrograde is very powerful for finishing the unfinished business, for fixing things, for correcting things, for making things right now, for reconciliations, for doing things right that we maybe skipped or that we didn't do in the right way. We may have to do some things over that we thought we finished, we thought we are done with. Now they may come again, and we may have to do them again, but this time we can do them in the right way. Also, some missed opportunities, we can now have those opportunities again. We have second chance to do something, second chance to repair things, to make them right. And of course, with Mercury retrograde, things from the past come up. Things from the past, people from the past, they can come through our dreams, because the ruler of this Mercury retrograde is also Mars, and it's in Pisces, and it's getting very close to Saturn in Pisces, and this can be tough energy. Mars and Saturn together are never easy, and this is something that, and it's in Pisces, so it's very spiritual. Spiritual is the medicine for all this energy, in retreat, in being silent, in contemplating, in meditating, in resting and relaxing, not in escapism, not in delusional thinking, not in fantasies. This is, taking responsibility for ourselves, taking responsibility for all those things that we usually so easily push aside and say it's not my responsibility, or it has nothing to do with me, so I'm not going to deal with it. But it has to do, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it has to do something with you. Whatever makes us feel uncomfortable, it's a message for us to deal with it, and Mercury is the messenger. And there are some messages that will be delivered to us. Messages from the past can come to us, messages from different lifetimes, maybe messages through our dreams. We will have many different channels through which these messages will reach us. So the messengers will be many, and it's not the point in who is the messenger, but what is the message and what that message does to us, what kind of trigger it creates, what kind of change within myself it creates. And we're going to deal with some issues from the past, Mercury retrograde, and it's time to retreat, to be introspective, to look within ourselves. Mercury retrograde, it's different, it's non-linear now, it's cyclical, and it can go back, it can skip time, it can jump from one timeline to another timeline. So we may see many different things happening, and synchronicities will be very, very strong. And this feeling that there's something otherworldly happening, and there is some hunch, some feeling that something big is about to happen, we may have this feeling. But I just want to say that we have to be careful about what we are listening to, who are we listening to, and what kind of beliefs we create within ourselves during this time. Because I noticed that there is a lot of drama around this eclipse. News, astrologers, big news, big titles, with capitals, like something very dramatic and apocalyptic is happening around this eclipse. But this is not the first or the last eclipse that we're going through, and each year we have a couple of eclipses that we're experiencing. So let's not fall into those traps. And this is again something that distracts us from what is truly important, and it's putting our focus outside, like something big is happening there outside. But I remind you that whatever we see outside is a reflection of our inner world. It truly is. So let's deal with what we're going through, what we are feeling, Aries, what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, what do I need, and not what is potentially maybe going to happen, and frightening, falling into those frightening frequencies. Let's not go there. So I never encourage people to follow those big titles of apocalyptic scenarios. That's just not constructive, and it has no, it's not valid. So I said a lot about that. So this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, of course, every eclipse brings, as I always say, endings, beginnings, goodbyes and hellos, unions, separations, connections, disconnections, marriages, divorces, but not for everyone, of course. And we may witness these things in people's lives around us. And this eclipse is happening on the 19th degree of Aries. So if this will especially affect you if you have some personal planets close to 19 degrees of Aries or 19 degrees of cardinal signs. They are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. So you can check where 19 degrees are in your chart, and you can see where this eclipse will hit you the most and where the changes will be the strongest. So these are very powerful rebirths. This is big rebirth energy. Huge transformation of the self, of my identity. And what can happen during this time for many of us is that, we suddenly change our whole sense of self, especially with this Uranus, Jupiter in Taurus that are getting closer and closer, and they are making exact conjunction on the 20th or 21st of April. And this will also be felt weeks before and after. And this is something sudden, something shocking, something surprising, something out of the blue, something we couldn't see coming. And it can bring sudden abundance, sudden windfalls, lucky opportunities, and, radical changes. Change of who I am, change of how I do relationships, big transformations. But I also remind you that if these changes and decisions come from impulsive behavior, if they come from being hurt and betrayed, from feeling like revengeful and envious, it won't be, of course, very constructive, but it will lead us anyway somewhere. But it's very good if we can make decisions based on our intuitive, vulnerable, open-minded, open-hearted self. And it's very, very healing energy, because Chiron, the wounded healer, is making exact conjunction with this total solar eclipse in Aries, and Chiron plays huge role in this. And Chiron is the wounded healer, and this will be a lot about releasing our karmic patterns, especially those patterns from our early childhood, when things were out of our control, when we couldn't cause something in this material realm, but things happened to us. And these are complexes that need to be resolved, and these are very awakening things, and we may experience some losses and battles, but these are fights and conflicts, big challenges, big shifts, and things we're going to deal with, are going to push us into that big self-confrontation frame, and we are in the ring with ourselves. So these battles and fights are actually with ourselves. We are one-on-one with ourselves. This is Aries, it's me, and everything is in Aries. Almost all energies are in Aries now. We have the sun and the moon and Chiron and the North Node and Mercury retrograde, all in Aries, and the ruler in Pisces next to Saturn. So it's very combative and very competitive and combustible, and then again transcendental and spiritual. So this is a lot about the spiritual warrior codex of behavior, and there is a lot of uncertainty, and these are things that come from the invisible, because Mars is in Pisces with Saturn, and we may face some hidden parts of ourselves, our self-manipulations. Where have we manipulated ourselves? Things that are behind the scenes, behind our back, hidden enemies and conspiracies, and secret and hidden plans, something from the dark. And it's very, very rebirthing. We shouldn't be afraid of those things. These are good things, because eclipses tend to pull things up that were stuffed down, that were pushed down, that were shut down. Now we have an opportunity to see them. They rise, they come to the surface, and we can face them, we can see them. Otherwise we don't see them and we don't deal with them, and they unconsciously shape our life. So it's very good when these things come to the surface, because now they become visible. What's been invisible becomes visible. Secrets, psychological problems, karmic agreements, hidden relationships and meetings, and all these things become very strong. And this is, as you know, the story of Chiron. Chiron is represented as the wounded healer, and Chiron was the master of the medicine, the therapist. He was the master of healing, and yet he could not heal himself. He could not heal his wound, because he was immortal and his wound was mortal. So he had to give up his immortality in order to transcend and transform his wound. Chiron represents people's biggest wound as well as their healing powers. And the glyph of Chiron is the key. It looks like the key, and the Chiron's wisdom provides a key to understanding ourselves, our wounds, and how to heal. Chiron has the ability to tell the untold, long buried stories and traumas of events and circumstances that happened in our life. And the lesson of Chiron involves the ways we recognize and deal with or don't deal with our deepest wounds, our earliest encounters with life, our memories that we are socialized to hide because they are perceived as unpleasant and uncomfortable and therefore unacceptable by society. So we just push them aside. And this is an area in which we feel vulnerable, weak, or or we feel that we feel less worthy, we feel unworthy, low self-esteem. And this energy talks about, because Chiron is in Aries is the first house, it's our body as well, our physicality, our vitality. And eclipses also impact our bodies, our physical bodies very much. So even if we could forget the experience itself, our bodies and minds would still contain that feeling as a sensory or trace memory. So our task is to denounce the role of victim and become the master of our wounds, to become exalted teacher and healer. And Chiron is the demiurge, the demigod, the half divine and half beastly, and it has dual nature because his father is Kronos and his mother is Philyra, and so they were in unwanted union, and Philyra, the mother of Chiron, was terrified when she found out that her son is Centaur, so her son is the monster, so she abandoned him right away at the birth. She was horrified that Chiron was the product of her unwanted union with Kronos, and she begged the gods to transform her into anything other than her mortal self. And she wasn't able to bear the burden of being a mother to a monster. And I told this story in some video before when I talked about Chiron and Aries, but it's very good to remember because this is that primal wound and our primal fear. It talks about the abandonment, but fortunately baby Chiron was found by a shepherd named Apollo, and Apollo is the sun god, and with Apollo's guidance Chiron became a well-known scholar and teacher and healer, and he was a very powerful teacher, a prophet, and he was tutoring Greek heroes. And during the short battle, his student, his disciple Hercules, wounded him accidentally and with the poisoned arrow. And though Chiron himself was not the cause, nor did he have any role in the battle, he found himself enduring a second injury, but this time physical one. The first one was the emotional wound and mental wound where he was abandoned. He didn't know his father, his mother abandoned him immediately at birth, and now he receives another injury and he could not heal it. And this happened at no fault of his own. And when offered the choice, Chiron chose to take the place of Prometheus, and he changed, with him, his immortality with his suffering. Prometheus was punished because he stole the fire from gods to give fire to humanity, and he was punished, and Chiron saw this as an opportunity to change places and to give his immortality to free Prometheus, and Chiron became a constellation. He became mortal. And the theme of abandonment is the central theme for understanding of Chiron and our wound. And it represents this is a story about parental abandonment of the child, and this is a psychological complex based on fear of abandonment that we all carry. This is the dominant theme in our relationships with others and with the world in general, the fear of abandonment. This is what runs all our relationships. And because of this fear of abandonment, we have many different behaviors in relationships. You know, they are never the same. They are all different, but they come from this root fear of abandonment. And there is a trinity in this Chiron complex, in this whole complexity of the woundedness. And there is the one who is wounded, and that's the victim. Then there is the one who wounds, that is the perpetrator, and the one who heals, the healer. So we have these three main principles and roles that are very active in our lives. So the one who is wounded, the victim, the one who wounds, the perpetrator, and the one who heals, the healer. And these are the identities that we rotate between, that we change, that we switch, and that we shift between, the roles we play as we go through the healing process. And we may begin in the role of the wounded one or the one who wounds. And we find ourselves later in life embodying the opposite role, or vice versa. The victim becomes the bully becomes the victim, and you know how these stories go. And we see this in our life all the time, and we are all going to experience this wound in our own way, depending on our personal stories. So which role are we playing, and how are we shifting? So the problem is when we blame others for playing these roles, because we don't see that these are projections. These are what subconscious fears project outwards, because otherwise we wouldn't see how this is happening, because it's subconscious. We don't see it. It's unseen. It's unknown. And then it becomes projected into the mirror, into others. And we fall into those tricks where we blame the person, but we don't see the problem of the trigger itself, of the wound. Instead of dealing with the wound, we deal with the person who is playing a role and who is making us aware of that wound. So I highly recommend that during this time, instead of dealing with the person, we should deal with the wound that is caused. And you know, we are going to see how we are shifting between these roles. If we are able to detach from our strongest identifications, we can actually see these things. We can actually become aware of how we are shifting between these roles, how we are in one moment or in one period of time, we are the wounded or we are the one who is wounding, how we are victim or the bully or the perpetrator or the victim, whatever. And to become the healer, we don't have to go through the linear process of these progressions of roles. And you know, this is an ongoing process of continuous confrontation with the self through the way we take in, interpret, and act on the feelings that come up in our dealing with outside people and situations and events. You know, it's when we are able to look at the situation but detach ourselves enough to avoid acting reactively or defensively, that we are able to tap into our empathy and compassion to become healer. Empathy and compassion, Mars in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces. And just to remind you that previous eclipse in Libra, the ruler of Libra is Venus, and Venus was with Saturn during that eclipse, and now we have Mars with Saturn during this eclipse. So both rulers of eclipses are meeting with Saturn in Pisces. So it's very important, our spiritual role, our ability to understand, to forgive, to be empathic, to contemplate, to detach, to transcend, to see things from different angle, to see the bigger picture. And we learn to integrate our painful experiences as part of our identities. But as long as we view these as imperfections that need to be removed, we will continue to see them as flaws in others as well as ourselves. And these things are impacting our capacity for relationships and mutual understandings. So if you didn't understand me, well, as long as we perceive these painful experiences as imperfections, as something bad, as punishment, as a curse, as a bad karma, or anything like that, or something that needs to be cut off, something that needs to be removed, something that needs to be forgotten, we will continue to see these things, these painful experiences and traumas, as flaws in others, as mistakes in others. So it's very important to see what irritates us in others, what gets on our nerves in others, because there are the keys for resolutions within ourselves. And this is where we make mistakes, because we deal then with those people and with their flaws. We cannot do that. We have to deal with that wound within ourselves, what that is causing within ourselves. And we find ourselves constantly trying to rid ourselves of those painful experiences through some magical quick solutions, quick fixes, through some evident cures. And the idea of living with our fears and flaws is difficult, of course, as we are trained by social conditioning in many ways to fix these things immediately, rather than to live with and accept them as part of who we are. This is where we make mistakes all the time. And we are programmed, we are conditioned by society and the system that we have to fix these things immediately, that we have to get rid of these painful experiences. We have to somehow solve them, or to remove them. We have to somehow exclude them from life, but we cannot do that, because if we do that, we lose ourselves, because those things make us who we are. Those are the keys. There are the keys. Chiron, the key, the wound. The wound is the medicine, the wound is the key. And as Rumi says, the cure for the pain is in the pain. And it's really like that. And, these things pushes us to look at the damage done and yet refrain from the compulsion to cure it, to see the scar and love it instead of covering it. So we are taught how to cover these things, and we are not taught how to deal with these things. Nobody is teaching us how to do these things, and we have to confront our inner torment, our inner bitterness, our inner heartache, and before it takes over our bodies and reflects it back to us through physical illness or something like that. We have to confront these things. We can the lesson of these things is to turn our pain into healing, not through fixing, not through removing, but through acceptance of these things that we see in ourselves and in others. And Chiron's story teaches us that only through acceptance of our own fate we become the healer. And this is when we deal with our woundedness. This is when we step into the role of the healer. But this role of the healer is also tricky. I will talk about it soon. And you know what this myth and tale of Chiron is teaching us is how to find power in the face of powerlessness. And Chiron is exposing our deep pain and how we address that pain and how our own healing powers have the ability to help others. Chiron symbolizes the strength of vulnerability, and it's encouraging us to embrace those thorny spaces of our past and to take action. Aries, take action. On the other side of your deepest wounds, you know, the fears, anxieties, challenges, traumas you've endured, is our very own power to heal ourselves and others by acknowledging and accepting and embracing our courage, ourselves. And, you know, these kinds of things are showing us who we are. And, you know, we may have been wounded in many places. You know, we maybe had to parent our parents, you know, we had to do parenting of our parents, or we maybe felt controlled or left out or abandoned, or maybe we are dealing with the wound of perfectionism, or we are dealing with being ignored or being disrespected, or we are dealing with childhood dysfunction and family dysfunction, or we are dealing with fear of failure or fear of success, or we are dealing with isolation or with being bullied. It doesn't matter, because we are all dealing with some kind of wound, or maybe with all of them together, and we are constantly running away from them, or we are putting these things on the throne like we are special because we've been through these traumas. So we either identify ourselves too much with these things, or we work on escaping these things too much. And, you know, we have to learn how to deal with these things. We have to learn how to accept them, not to fix them, remove them, you know, escape them. Chiron was a wise teacher who didn't let the awful things that happened to him make him hard and bitter and brittle. And, you know, those epochal legendary heroes such as Achilles, Asclepius, Hercules, Jason and the Argonauts, those kinds of heroes and archetypes were students and disciples of Chiron, who was that kind of wounded healer. And despite his wisdom, he is wounded again and again by different circumstances. And this is what we are taught, that it doesn't matter how wise we become or how powerful we are not immune, we are not protected from painful experiences in life. And this is a key characteristic of Chiron. It represents hurts that were done to us, usually in childhood, because those are the ones that are outside of our control. And ultimately, Chiron tells us how we can turn that pain into wisdom by being our own therapist and healer, instead of waiting someone else to fix it and to fix us. It identifies the wound that only we ourselves can heal. And Chiron wound can free us from the need to blame, and it can release us from the shame as well. So this is the story of tragedy and wisdom. And Chiron embodies the duality of pain and enlightenment. And as the wounded healer, he represents the profound connection between pain and wisdom, between suffering and transformation. he shows us that our wounds do not define us, but can serve as catalysts for personal transformation and empathy towards others. Let's remember Mars is in Pisces, empathy towards others. Previous eclipse in Libra, others. And this is, an uneasy union. It's not so easy, but of course this is what is helping us master ourselves. And Chiron's dualistic nature drove him to seek his own wholeness, and we are all dual beings as well. Spirit and matter, the seen and the unseen. We need this duality, but this duality is driving us to search for our own wholeness. And he was driven by a need to put the parts of himself together so he could become one. And Chiron's decision to heal Prometheus by taking on his pain was exactly the thing that liberated Chiron. And it was a truly selfless act. So we have to do something that is selfless in order to heal ourselves. It illustrates a healing principle of homeopathy, that in the poison is the cure. The same thing that Rumi said in the 13th century and many masters earlier. We have to acknowledge that the pain is the gift of life, and it's driving us onwards towards healing and wholeness. And all of us have a primal wound, a wound that feels like it will never heal. Our human tendency is to think that we are special in our woundedness, and this is another problem, big one. So, as I said, our human tendency is to think that we are special in our woundedness. You have no idea what I've been through. Aries. This is what Aries side is saying also, and Chiron in Aries especially. You have no idea how it feels to be me. You don't know what I've been through. Do you know who I am? Do you know how I feel? You have no idea. But of course, this is what our ego victimized self is talking. Our hurt ego. But that attitude is the very thing that forms the greatest obstacle to our healing. When we put that specialness of our woundedness, this is what prevents us from healing. So in order to heal and truly move on, we must let go of that, of that glamour of victimhood. And we have to accept and bring ourselves to love the broken or split off side of ourselves. And we have to let go of attachment to being special in that brokenness. I'm the victim of the fate. We have to let go of that need, to let go of the suffering. We are strongly attached to our fears and our suffering because those things, these are the things that we are identified with the most. These things make us feel special, and they give us that sense of, being different. I am different, I am special because I've been through so much. But we have to let go of that. We have to see that we are all dealing with certain wounds and pains. We are all unique in those things. We are all dealing with different paths, and each path is equally unique and valuable. And Chiron in Aries and Aries energy, this eclipse in Aries is really giving us an opportunity to work with that pain, to work with those traumas, to work with those vulnerabilities, to work with all those complexities within ourselves, to finally deal with ourselves instead of blaming others, dealing with others, fighting with others, instead of dealing with that wound, dealing with that pain that is triggered, dealing with that feeling that is inside of us. So instead of, mocking others, or competing with others, or being jealous, or maybe feeling better than others, or putting ourselves above or below others, all these things are useless. They have no purpose. They are completely and absolutely destructive. Completely, very self-destructive. So we can now really deal with ourselves, not with the mirror. We have to deal with who we are, with our own projections, with our subconscious fears, with our suppressed feelings, with everything that irritates us in others, everything that provokes us that comes from others, everything that we don't like about others. There are the keys for resolving our wounds, our woundedness, our traumas. And Chiron in Aries, and this eclipse in Aries, with Mercury retrograde in Aries, and with Mars in Pisces, brings tons of different scenarios, of course. And this can be the energy where some of us, we are going to feel like the lone healer, the lone teacher, the lone ranger, the lone gunman. And we have to heal the beginning. Heal Chiron, the beginning, Aries, and deal with that sense of being the lone healer, or the lone teacher, or the lone ranger. Learning to stand up for ourselves, fighting for our personal rights, fighting for our right to exist. This is that impulse of Aries and Chiron in Aries, healing the warrior within ourselves, healing the spiritual warrior. And this can also be self-centered healing, selfish individuality, radical self-acceptance, self-appointed gurus, healers, wise people, mentors, sages, teachers, and so on. This energy is a reminder that we are the medicine. I am the medicine. You are the medicine. Being the medicine, and embracing that sacred masculine energy, because this is Aries and Mars, and Chiron is in Aries. Chiron, the wounded healer in that masculine area of the chart in Aries, in the sign of Mars. So this is a lot about the sacred masculine and wise men and enlightened fighters, or army of healers. Army, Mars, healers, Chiron, army of healers, healing with the fire. Mars is the fire, Aries is fire principle, playing with fire, fire walking, fire eating, sweating in order to heal, using heat for health, using fire element for healing. These things are very powerful now. Competitive healing, this is the other side. I am healing faster than you. I'm moving on too quick. I already did that. I did that. When I did that 20 years ago. The place where you are now, I did that 20 years ago. I did that healing process. This kind of egoic me first energy. I'm the best. I'm the first. I did it all by myself. What are you doing? You have the helpers, you have everyone around you, you have the family who loves you, you have the support of your friends. I did it all myself. I am the best, I am the first, I am the best healer in the world. We are going to face and experience these things within ourselves or with others around us. I discovered my true self. I wrote a book. I healed a lot of people. I can save the planet. I became a guru. I started my teaching school, and I am leading the whole world to enlightenment. I've been there. I've done that. What you're doing now, I know this, and we are going to face these kinds of things too. Or being angry at someone who doesn't have to do things on their own, because we had to. These things also will be very powerful. But as I said, don't fall into that trap of dealing with that person, but deal with that wound that you are feeling, with that anger. Anger because they did it all easy and you had to go through the hell, and they don't have to walk through anything because they have it all. But don't make those conclusions. Deal with that wound that is causing. We are also going to face, those things where we are feeling like we are an island. I'm all alone. I'm whole unto myself, and I'll never get there first. I'll never be in the first place. I can never win. I am the worst. So now we have the opposite of this, what I talked about. And, the pain of being alone, and, feeling that longing for someone, being single, pain of being single who sleeps alone, or we can see that many people will choose to be alone as a long-term lifestyle. Or we may experience people who are going to help us, like, I can help you, I'll help you myself, I can help you heal, I'll go and heal you for you. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to be near me. I can heal you remotely. These things are also very strongly activated, so let's be careful, And we may also see that I don't need any help. I can do it all on my own. I don't trust anyone. Nobody can help me. Nobody knows what I'm going through. These are all tricks. All of them. The best thing is that we observe all that is happening within ourselves and around ourselves. Observe and accept. And work on integrating those painful experiences instead of removing them or escaping them. We are going to see that many people are facing that pain of not having a partner, the pain of not finding the soulmate that they are looking for, the twin flame, and all these fancy terms, the pain of not having a best friend, the pain of having to go everywhere and do everything on our own, the pain of all this independence, and the pain of not being able to rely on others, and we may feel burned out, fried, exhausted. And what happens when you give it all you've got and you still lose? How do you feel then? How do you keep moving forward when you are in a losing battle? And we may see that many of us maybe feel better in a battle. I feel alive when I'm in battle. I feel better. I feel better when I burn things. Maybe some people will literally feel better when they literally burn things, or when they break things, or we may see destruction therapies. They are going to be strong. Therapy of destruction, breaking things. This can be a very healthy outlet as long as we don't hurt anyone else. And feeling better when we are angry. Anger therapy. Anger can become a very great therapy, a very healing process. I feel better when I have a worthy opponent. I am tired of weak battles. I need strong battle. I need to express this anger, this strength. Or, I don't know what to do with my anger. We are feeling the burn and we can heal that burn. These are times for very powerful therapeutic martial arts, for therapeutic fighting, for therapeutic screaming, for primal scream, primal scream. This is a time to fight against apathy. But we may see that we search for very quick solutions. This is Aries energy and Chiron is here. Fast therapies, quick therapies, 5 minutes therapies, like, that's it, I'm dealing with it, this is my problem, I have this, thank you. Just things are moving very fast, shortcut therapies, shortcut healing, hey, I know a shortcut. These kinds of things very, very strong and challenging now in our life. Or that, as I said, I did it first. I did it by myself. I heal me first. We are definitely awakening towards a new direction, and we are searching to heal that self-fragmented parts of ourselves, and we may be selfishly putting ourselves, not ourselves, but our pain in the first place, putting our pain first. And if you don't understand me, I don't need you in my life. I don't need anyone, actually. This is another trick, and this is also coming from that unconscious woundedness and ego self. If you don't understand me, if you don't know what I'm going through, I don't even need you in my life. These kinds of battles are very, very strong, but I again remind you that all these battles are inner battles. They are all coming from the inside of ourselves, from our own conflicted mind. As I said in previous live, everything comes from that conflicted mind of ourselves. And we are going to see something that is happening for quite some time now, or the growth of healers. Everyone is a healer now. And we may see the battle of the healers, battle between healers, between yogis, between gurus, battles between astrologers, battles between doctors, battles between tarot readers, battles between homeopathic healers. These kinds of battles will be strong, and these things are coming to light more and more. There is a need for more awareness that healing is a very inner process, actually. And we may feel like there is no single person we can turn to, and of course realizing I am my own mentor, I am the healing. And we are going to see that healers need healing too. Like, we may feel the burden of being a healer. I don't want to be in charge of all the things. There is the pain of and the wound of the leadership. Aries, the leadership. Who's in charge? Who is going to take charge of this? I don't want to deal with this. It's too much. I cannot deal with this. We may ask ourselves, where are our teachers and mentors and wise people? Who is running this place? Like, who is running my place? And who is in charge of my life? Who is in charge of your life? What happens when all the responsibility is in my hands? How much can we do alone? Where is my voice? What do I have to say about the healing process? I am the wound and I am the healer. That's the truth. I am the bridge between the wound and the medicine, and I am the wound and the medicine at the same time. I am all the three manifestations of the Chiron. I am the one who is wounding, I am the one who is wounded, and I am the one who is healing. So, we are asked to embrace our animus, to embrace our divine masculinity within ourselves. This is the battle of genders, as I said before. Whenever we have this Aries strongly emphasized, it's a lot about gender wars. Mars is the lord of the war, and Mars is the masculine energy, and Venus, the ruler of previous eclipses, divine feminine. So we are asked to stop hating men or women. This is another trap, another trick. This is, the battle between the patriarchal and matriarchal dimensions and worlds. It's not possible that one is better than the other. We need to live both of them, because we all have masculine and feminine within ourselves. So, as I said, the Chiron, the duality of the beastly and the divine energy, and his painful experiences are driving him towards wholeness. So our painful experiences are teaching us how to embrace our masculine and feminine, how to accept our painful experiences, how to deal with them all the time. Not, it's never going to happen that we are going to resolve our problems, all our problems, and nothing ever painful will happen to us. Life is constantly giving us challenges, and this is the journey. We are on this journey. We are experiencing life in all its expressions and manifestations. And there are some very powerful quotes that are perfectly aligned with these energies. And of course, it's again Rumi, and it says, "Don't run away from grief, O soul. Look for the remedy inside the pain, because the rose came from the thorn and the ruby came from a stone." This one is really perfectly aligned with this. And some other ones I'm going to also to read now. This one is from Bhagavad Gita, and it says, "Fear not what is not real, never was and never will be. What is real always was and cannot be destroyed." And we are going to face what is real and what is unreal now. Another one from Bhagavad Gita that says, "It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection." And one more from Yogananda that says, "Do not take life's experiences too seriously, for in reality they are nothing but dream experiences. Play your part in life, but never forget that it is only a role." And with this I would end this forecast, and I wish you all a very powerful healing journey. Thank you, I love you so much, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.